Christian parenting. So, you're having a baby. Guys, welcome back! Season 2 of So You're Having a Baby, and we are pumped. It is going to be an awesome season full of real conversations, full of encouragement, full of fun, and we are so glad that you're back here to join us. Today is episode 1, and it is a special episode at that. Today we have on Bob Goff and his amazing daughter, Lindsey Goff Viducich, and they share with us all about their new book, Everybody Always for Kids. Bob Goff is the author of the New York Times bestselling Love Does, Everybody Always, and Dream Big, as well as the best-selling Love Does for Kids. He's a lover of balloons, cake pops, and helping people pursue their dreams. Bob's greatest ambitions in life are to love others, do stuff, and most importantly, to hold hands with his wife, sweet Maria Goff, and spend time with their amazing kids. For more from Bob, check out bobgoff.com and lovedoes.org. Lindsey Goff Viducich loves kids. She began her teaching career at a therapeutic childcare center in Seattle and went on to teach kindergarten in Nashville, first grade in Salem, Oregon, and both first and second grades in San Diego. Lindsey lives with her husband, John, and spends most of her free time creating art and living news stories with her family. Their book, Everybody Always for Kids, is out now for purchase wherever you buy your books. Be sure to check it out. Let's jump right in.
Lindsey, Bob, thanks so much for joining the conversation today. Like before pushing record, we were just talking about the crazy weather that we've been having like in our various cities. And so it's uncommon days we're living in so many ways, but it's so fun that we get to have like a conversation like this about kids and grandkids on even while we're physically distant, we can still have the conversation virtually. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's it. I always thought like a Zoom was the noise an airplane made, and now it's like means something else. People are going to have like, it's going to be a new thing. Like there's a, whatever it is. I know when you're afraid of spiders, it's some big long name, and there'll be another thing where like everybody's kind of zoomed out.
Zoomophobia.
Yes. Zoomophobia.
I love it.
That's amazing. Well, today we're talking about your book, Everybody Always for Kids. Guys, congratulations. So when this podcast episode airs, your book will have come out yesterday. So flash forward to the future just a little bit. We love it. We got an advanced copy. We've been reading it to our kids. It's amazing. So congratulations for having the book released.
Oh, thank you. This is great. Well, I'm just so delighted to be doing this with Lindsey Goff Viducich, my daughter. We were back in Washington, D.C. at something a couple of years ago, and somebody saw Lindsey with me, and now she's all like grown up, and they didn't know that she's my daughter. And so they said, "Oh, where did you and Bob meet?" Like, well, we met at a hospital.
The hospital. Yeah.
So it's fun to be co-authoring things. And Lindsey's actually just the right one to write a kid's book because she's been an educator for a really long time and has taught every grade there is to teach in elementary school. And so what a perfect person to usher in the right words for Everybody Always for Kids.
I love it. You guys are pretty much on our bucket list. We literally were like dreaming up, this is season 2. And we're like, if we could have anybody, who would we have? And this is just really exciting because I thought, Bob, he's all about grace and grace-oriented living. And so who better than to have his daughter on who was raised under that? It's like so cool. That's like our big heart, especially with Christian parenting, is perfectly imperfect parenting. And I just feel like you guys are like spokespeople for, grace and love oriented living and parenting. So we're so honored to have you all on.
Oh, I can do the imperfect part. I'm like, it'll be so interesting to hear from Lindsey what it was like to be raised by Tigger.
Never a dull moment. That's
anything that goes fast or is sharp. We encourage the children to like run with sharp objects. But I think one of the things that I want them to do is to engage life with a lot of hope, a lot of love, and a lot of wonder. That sense of wonder and like what you see and not just like wonder like awe, but wonder like I wonder what would happen if I wonder. Well, that would be a really unique, beautiful thing we could place in our kids that says not just sense of awe and wonder, but asking the question, hey, I wonder, what are you wondering about? Let's just talk about leaves for a second. Like what makes them green, what makes them fall, what makes them red, and just be curious. Because I think there's something beautiful if we can stir up, like Paul talking to Timothy, like fan that flame of curiosity, that some really beautiful things would happen.
It's so good. Bob, even in your bio, it kind of speaks to that a little bit. It talks about that you're a lover of balloons and cake pops and helping people pursue big dreams. So first question, I know what makes cake pops so amazing. Like I'm very acutely aware of that, but could you let us know, what do you think, what makes balloons so amazing? What makes you a lover of balloons?
One of the things that springs to mind, that we start schools in conflict countries. It's been kind of a family thing for the longest time. And so when ISIS had taken over much of Iraq, there's one of the leaders in the north, actually the whole northern province, said he would meet. And so I'm like, what do you bring that guy? Like, like a flak jacket, and so we blew up a helium balloon and we blew it up here and we took it in the overhead across the ocean and we delivered. We walked into his office. And so because there was like a lot of tension in the area, and it wasn't making light of that, but it was really represented hope because everybody knows what hope looks like. And so sweet Maria Goff sometimes says, I'm the balloon and she's the string. And Lindsey Goff Viducich is a lot of the string as well in my life. I can have a great idea, and she has quite a few good ones herself. But to have that in relationships between you and your kids, to have some people be the balloon and some the string. Lindsey, what does it feel like to be the string in our relationship?
Well, it's fun because you're the kind of dad who looks at what we're doing in our lives and is like, oh, how can I come along this side, like next to that, and make those dreams happen and the things that we're excited about happen. So I think it's like I get to be the string in the sense that I have these ideas, but then you're the balloon in the sense that like, you can do them, let's go. Like you're the person who like provides that, like the lift and the encouragement.
We're celebrating a birthday around here for a short one, a 3-footer. And so this a little 3-footer is really big on dump trucks, like anything that dumps. So I'm actually going to run out later this afternoon and pick up one so we can just show him the like I just want to spend the rest of my days. I want to just show up and be the guy with the dump truck that just check this out.
Yeah,
make a great slide.
You never, when we were growing up, you never like forced a like interest on us. You just always like, we just led the ship. I bet we went through like 52 different hobbies, or like I was convinced I would do like 70 different things with my life. And with every single one of them, I remember you just taking it dead seriously. Like it was just the best idea you had ever heard of. And it would be me at 5, like with my grand dreams.
Yes, if it had to do with sparkly shoes, or if Richard wanted to make pizzas, I'd grow tomatoes.
That's amazing. That reminds me of a story. I was super into music in high school. I did the one thing in college my parents told me not to do, which is drop out with the band that I was in. Like, you can do pretty much everything, just don't do this one thing, which of course on the phone call, they're like, it's the thing, isn't it? And
that's like catnip.
Yeah. And I remember in high school, this memory of going to play one of our first shows, and my dad was there. I wasn't able to drive yet, and so he took us down to like the shadiest part of Dallas, and went to this show with all these emo kids in Dallas, Texas. And I remember him sitting reading a book with his shirt tucked into his jeans in this area with all these scene kids running around, and that experience of seeing him there and be there to kind of lift up that goal that I had of playing music was such a fun experience that I look back to forever. And that sense of embracing the goals that we have as kids, that's so cool.
I love that. It's so empowering for your kids.
Yeah, we have so much agency over the kinds of things that we say to our kids too. I remember with Adam Goff, he didn't do what we want him to do in the morning, which is make your bed. And so when he would come downstairs, I was finding the first thing I would ask him every day is, have you made your bed? Which is such a lame thing. I should think like, have you ever been in a volcano? I mean, not around one, like in one. I should ask them like, how many birds do you think there are? But I was asking stupid questions like, did you make your bed? So the answer was always no. So we started the day with shame and guilt.
Right.
But we thought like, there's a better way to do this. So we got rock climbing holds and we bolted them into the walls. We got a portaledge, which is if you were going up Half Dome, if you bivouacked halfway up there, you'd sleep on the portaledge hanging from a carabiner. So we tied a carabiner into the ceiling. The boys would belay each other into their beds. And Adam slept in a sleeping bag on a portaledge for 5 years. It's like problem solved. I fixed that for $38.
But I mean, why not?
Yeah. So I just think as parents, we're all trying to figure it out, and think of yourself as like trying to pick the lock. And what you do is you spin the dial one way and you listen for the tumblers. And then you spin it the other way and you listen to the tumblers, but you got to shut up and listen a little bit. And I think that's what we need to do with our kids.
I love that. So this book is all centered around basically teaching your children to love without inhibition and without insecurity, which I love that distinction, and to really just love everybody for who they are. And so just wanted to ask y'all, why is love so important? There's a lot of things we could spend our time on, a lot of things we could value. In Matthew, there's the 3 great commandments, So why do you guys think that love is so important?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that you're really going to see what you're looking for. And so if you look at the world through a lens of, loving God, loving other people, you're going to start looking at people the way that God looks at us, which is seeing us for who we are turning into, like who we're becoming. And so having that perspective when we look at other people too, and seeing not who are they right now, but who are they becoming, like that's going to change your whole outlook. Like I've thought about that so much, especially this year when there's just a lot of hard things that we're all navigating. And so if we didn't have that perspective of like the hope that comes because you see, other people in the world through a lens of loving others, and like, that'd be pretty rough to navigate.
Yeah. I've been to a lot of weddings, and we all have. And there's always that moment in the wedding at the end where I don't know. I think I've just it's been said so many times that you're like, no, it's 1 Corinthians 13:13. It's and faith, hope, and love, these three things remain, and love is the greatest. And so I just am kind of like, no, don't do that. But here's the deal. That's the only thing that's going to remain: faith, hope, and love. And if I don't see Satan around every corner, but if darkness wants to get a foot in the door, that's what you're going to attack. Not the stuff like cake pops. Like I don't think that's ever come to his mind. But faith, hope, and love, like attack the only 3 things. And I think that's what happens in our lives. It'll be your faith that'll feel like it's under fire. It'll be your sense of hope, like enter disease, stage left. And your ability to love. And so I just think if we could give a little bit more airtime, we have rows and rows of books for big kids like adults, but maybe a little bit shorter stack for kids. And I think the hope with Everybody Always for Kids is that we would have a book that parents could read with their kids and to say, hey, that was a neat story. Tell me your story. Tell me about faith. Tell me, what are you hoping for? Tell me about what love looks like in your life. Tell me about what it is that you're afraid of and that you're going to lean into. So we would hope that this book would be a great primer for all those discussions.
Yeah.
It's so good. Even the name of the book, Everybody Always, that sentiment and of being able to love everyone and always. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking like, I can't strive my way into that. Right? Like to love everyone always. I know myself, and I know the challenges that I have in being able to do that well, and how I feel with this concept of like just loving more. But in the book, you talk about right at the very beginning, you say, of all the terrific, helpful, creative things we could be, the most important thing God wants us to be is love. And I was thinking about that idea of not like just doing love, but being love. and the concept of that being a part of our nature. And you use that language throughout the entirety of the book, this idea of being love to others around us. So just wondered if you could speak to that sentiment of what it looks like to be love to others around us.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is the idea that Jesus is the embodiment of love and we're supposed to be Jesus in our lives. So when we talk about becoming love, we talk about what Jesus talked about where he said, be perfect. And like being perfect means loving other people. So we talk about that a lot in the book. I literally, in the process of writing this, looked up every single reference to love that there is in the Bible. Like what does it look like every single time? And then tried to pair that with what's a story that could make that make sense for kids. But it really is the same things repeated over and over again, like being in a competition to show honor to other people and being generous and showing forgiveness to other people. Those are really the repeated themes. So those are the things that we hope that kids learn. But I think those are all interchangeable. Like becoming love, it's the same thing as becoming just like Jesus.
Yeah, I think when your kids get a little older, they're going to learn that you apply for a job and you say, like, so what's your career objective? And what if you wrote in, like, I want to become love? You'd miss out on a couple of really great jobs, but you'd at least have some clarity about what you're aiming for. Yeah. And so, truth be known, the way, as much as I want to love everybody always, a more accurate title for me most days is some people sometimes. But people who know what they're aiming for. I'm trying to move from some people sometimes to everybody always. And it's knowing where you're at. Like when you go into a mall, there's a big X at the entrance on a map. And it says, you are here. And the reason they sell Dippin' Dots at the mall is for people who forgot why they came. Because nobody goes to the mall to get Dippin' Dots because they cost too much and they're bad for you. But they're just banking on the fact that you'll forget why you came. And I think what was so fun to be co-pilot with Lindsey on this book is that she wants to remind parents and children about why did they come to the mall? Yeah. Why are they there? And then also just say, where are you at? Like, do you know where you're at? Because as soon as you know where you're at, it was the first question that God asked Adam and Eve right after it got wonky is like, where are you? Mm-hmm. I don't think he's talking about latitude, longitude. I was thinking, so like, now that it's wonky, where are we? Mm-hmm. And I think these are the conversations between parents and kids, the really conversations we can have with ourselves to find a way forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it was encouraging me in such a deep level I was thinking back about Genesis and this idea that we're made in the image of God, right? The Imago Dei is what it says. And that when scripture says that God is love, that's who he is. And this awesome opportunity to get to kind of shed off the various things that, I put on every day that keep me from being able to do this, but to really remember that at the end of the day, this is who I am, as God's child made in his image. If he's love, then, maybe I am too. Maybe in my nature, in my essence, that's who God has made me to be, is love. And in my core, if I'm walking in healing and in an encouragement and in wisdom, I have this opportunity to actually be that to other people around me. I don't have to strive so hard. And I think that's when I see in our kids too. Like at the end of the day, our kids can do all kinds of crazy stuff, but they're so loving. Like our kids are so filled with love. We caught our 4-year-old son the other day in his underwear on our front porch. He snuck out through the side of our house and he's just talking to some random family. He liked their dog.
Neighbors walking by.
And they're like, should he be out here? We just saw, heard his little voice, out the front, hey, I like your dog, talking to these neighbors. And they're like, who's this 4-year-old in his underwear talking to us?
In his underwear. That's not going to work out as well when he's 18. But one of the things that's so neat is, when you mentioned Genesis, that idea of hovering, because there's a lot of hovering going on in Genesis. And it doesn't change. I remember Lindsey went away to college, which was the best, worst day for us ever. I was just so bummed because she's our oldest and it's so sad, but so delighted. And they wouldn't let the parents wisely come to the things with the students. But I had gone up there with her. And so we were up in Seattle. And while Lindsey was attending whatever it is for all the freshmen, I had this old seaplane. And so I got in the seaplane and I flew over the campus and started doing circles at the time that she was like walking out of the meeting. And I called her and I said, Lindsey. And she's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm a hovering parent. And she's like,
He's
no.
doing loops around the campus. Oh my gosh.
Lindsey, you probably have so many stories. I can't even imagine.
Dad. But here's the thing. I want whatever you're doing to like, I don't know, like, why don't you replace the straws that you're going to have for dinner with Twizzlers? Like, have a bad banners night. Go get Spam and sloppy joes and end with a great big food fight. But then have a good manners night and learn that you serve on the left and you pick up on the right, where the fork goes, that you pull out the chair, that you rise when a woman walks into the room. Like, to learn these things, not because it's polite, because we're never going to honor God if we don't learn how to honor each other. And if we could like send these kind of messages instead of bullet points on a PowerPoint, what if you just like say, do it, but in the most unlikely way? Just like, let's get the Twinkies. But knowing the next night we're going to actually learn how you eat spaghetti when it's really nasty, because this is going to help you make your first date a second date someday.
Yeah. I love that. And I know that there's going to be so many parents listening to this that are like, I want to do that. Like, how do I do that? I would love if you guys would speak to what kind of hurdles you see often get in the way of that type of life with your kids and that type of fun and attention and creativity. I hear of like, it's just so much creativity that you would even think out of the box to like hover over her thing in a plane, or like, I've never even thought about having like a food fight night with our kids, but I'm like, oh my gosh, they would love that.
Oh, you are 3 drop cloths from Home Depot away from a good one tonight. I mean, it's going to be really cold outside. Like, I just think what a great time. And you know what? If there's a stain on a pillow afterwards, you're going to love that thing. You are going to like love that, because like, this was from the food fight. I don't know, Lindsey, I'm not just saying that you were twice the parent I ever was. Like, tell me about how you navigate like life and parenting and all that.
Well, thinking about what the hurdles are, I think a lot of times the hurdle is that when we do things that are really creative with our kids, that it has to be this like big drastic thing, or it has to be something that happens outside of our normal family rhythm and routine. And so looking at what are the rhythms you have anyway, and then how can you take those and put a little creative spin on it? Because most of the stories we wrote about in the book, they're not like really huge, incredible things that happened. It's the story of our mailman who got everybody's mail mixed up faithfully for decades and became a really great, like this beloved person in our neighborhood. And he knew everyone's names and our names, and he had a retirement party. And so we asked him, like, you know, can you be the grand marshal of the parade that our neighborhood has every year? We just want to honor you before you go. And he had so much fun at his retirement party and being the grand marshal of the parade that he retired, but then was so sad to be away, he came right back. And so
we're like, no,
like, oh my gosh. And we like came right back to, you know, mixing up everybody's mail all over again. And I think we have more things that are right in front of us in parenting and right within our own homes in parenting, especially right now when we're home all the time. Like, we've added in, like, we do our like little family pizza night every Friday, and we get out the mixer and my son and I make the pizza dough together. And it's like, that's just a little thing, but it's just building in those rhythms that are like, this is what our family's going to do every single week. And so thinking, what are you already doing with your kids? And then how can you add that the whimsy and togetherness. Because I heard something so encouraging too this past week that, it doesn't really matter. Like when it comes to your kids, like you could be working, you could be home with them all the time, like whatever, childcare you have set up. The thing that matters most to kids is how you are spending the time when you are together, like the quality of that time. And so I think we skip right over that part and jump straight to it's got to be this huge thing and we're going to like started nonprofit and, all these things. And, that those are parts of our family story that happened later on. But man, like my childhood was like, really, it was like just us home together. Like those are my memories. So kind of giving as an encouragement to parents, like give a lot of weight to that because what you're doing right now within the walls of your home are just so important.
So good.
I've two quick thoughts. When we think about impediments, for some of us, we'll spend so much time trying to provide for our families that we don't actually provide for our families. Like what they need is us. Because I would guarantee that if Maria wanted just somebody that would, produce money, she would marry an ATM machine because it would leave its socks out every day like I do. But I think a great way to kind of check where you are, super practical if you're a parent, go get a paper plate. You can put macaroni and cheese on it later, but keep track of how you spend your day. So there's 24 hours. And you might say, 6 or 9 or whatever is how much you spend sleeping. So just like shade that part and then say, like, not just at work, if you do it away from the home, but then distracted by work, that is a wedge. That's a very large one probably. And then to say, what's the amount of time focused attention just on your kids? All the phones are away, everything's away. And there's no shame in this, but to just kind of audit yourself and see how are we doing? And does the pipe shape that's emerged look like the pie shape I want? Yeah. It's just a great way to remind yourself and then change a couple things. There will never be new creations if everything remains the same. You'll be just like, retread versions of the old one. And that's not what, like old Bob, he's on the bus. But new Bob, Grandpa Bob, I canceled 72 speaking events on a Thursday because I quit stuff every Thursday. And I'm like, I'm done traveling. And so I just called up everybody and I just said, I'm out. It was awesome. They're like, that's terrific. I guess I just want everybody to know that like you have permission to do this. And if you're in a job that you don't like anymore, quit. Give me your boss's phone number. I'll quit for you. But there's something really beautiful about that. And to say, who's the newest version of you?
Yeah, it's so good. It reminds me of, I was thinking about this earlier yesterday. A friend of mine and I were talking about parenting, and he was saying that it's just, I think the goal for him in the next season is going to be a lot less for and a lot more with. As the sentiment, it feels like we're so busy doing so many things for other people, for our kids, for our family, for all this stuff. When my 4-year-old, what he just wants us to be with me, he doesn't need me to do as many things for him. He wants to do things with. And even when we try to do things like cook dinner or we want to go clean or we want to do all this other stuff, like he wants to do that stuff with me. So when we're cooking, he wants to cook dinner and I know it's going to take twice as long and be 3 times as messy. And it might not taste as good because when I let him, I love to cook. When I let him get the salt and put it in, he's going to put way too much salt in. I try to get just a little bit and it's going to end up being a ton. But those are the memories, right? It's the opportunity is he's either cooking with me and we have that experience together of those 30 minutes, or I did it for him and he's like, yeah, this dinner tastes good. But that whole 30 minutes, he's watching his show and he's doing all this other stuff. And what are the things that matter most in life? And the ability to do a lot more of stuff with kids as opposed to for our kids, I feel like is a great opportunity I've been thinking about a lot.
Yeah, the largest tire manufacturer on earth isn't Firestone or Bridgestone. It's Legos. They make more tires than any other tire manufacturer on earth. Isn't that awesome? And the tires are like the size of an eraser. And but there's just lots of them. And I said, well, then go use some. Go get some Legos. Put some tires on something. Take your faith, take your parenting out for a spin and see what happens. And I think there's something beautiful, and maybe you stay with that metaphor. If you've got things that are getting in the way and distracting you, like one of these Apple products, would be the first time an Apple got in our way. But to say what we're going to do is just make skid marks to a stop. We're just not doing that anymore. I quit. And I'm just going to peace out from whatever it is that's distracting me from my family. Faith, hope, and love. Only thing that are going to remain.
That's so good. Lindsey, you touched on some amazing advice there in terms of just inviting these into the regular practices of your life. I was curious if anything comes to mind. I feel like this book is a really great opportunity to, like, we love reading to our kids at nighttime. So since we got the advanced copy, we've been reading stories to our 4-year-old. He's been loving them. Is there anything that you'd encourage, Lindsey, for us to do like every day? Like, is there any daily practices that you think just instill this value of loving kids well and encouraging them to love everybody always?
You know, what's really sweet about kids is that I think this is me as a teacher talking now too, really all kids need from you is to read with them, talk with them, and play with them every single day. Like, that should be, if you've done those 3 things, like as a parent, but then also, me as a teacher, stamp of approval, it's like reading, talking, and playing. And so what are the conversations that you're having as a family? What kinds of things are you playing, like, with your kids? Like Dad was saying, like, go out and get a bunch of Legos. But those are some of my most cherished memories that we talk about a lot in the book, are like building things together. And then what kinds of things are you reading, like this book? But then, what are things that your kids are interested in? And that helps shape who they are the things that you're reading together and talking about together. So that's really simple, but that would be what I would say to parents.
And if you want to live, have a noteworthy family, not noteworthy like other people will know about your family, but just really in there, take notes. So when Lindsey's talking, I'm taking notes, read, talk, and play. I'm like, that's so awesome. So just be like amazed, like let your kids teach you stuff, be their biographers early on, write that stuff down. And it's right out of Deuteronomy, like to remember the thing that God's done when you wake up in the morning, when you're walking by the way, when you lay down. They didn't stack rocks because they ran out of paper. They stacked rocks because they wanted people to remember. And I just go like, so remember that, read, talk, and play. I'm like, and these are things that you should tell your children. I'm saying these are things you should tell yourself. And I'm telling myself. So I don't want to like have somebody say something awesome and then just skip by like, oh yeah, that was great. I just like take notes on those things. I bet I send myself 100 to 150 emails a day. I get home, I'm like, him again, block. But it's actually been super helpful because I want to be that engaged. If you didn't write down that Legos is the largest tire manufacturer on earth, like you're missing it. There's no shame in that. Just write it down because your kids, it'll blow their minds. And guess what? The average cloud hovering over your house in Dallas when it's 1 degree out weighs 1.1 million pounds. Is that crazy? Mind blown.
What?
Be like 1.1 million pounds. Is that only in Texas? No. This is any cloud. But there's something really beautiful when you're on your back, looking up at the sky. Tell your kids about how much a cloud weighs. And there's something about living a curious, engaged life. It's like catnip for other children to be curious and engaged. And so they're going to do what you do. And if you're like staring at screens, they're going to stare at screens. And if you are like bedazzled by clouds, they're going to be bedazzled by clouds.
I think a big part of that too is being really confident in the fact that you are your child's parent for a reason. Like they got you, and like you as a person are, like my son got a crafty mom. I totally dig like cutting out little things for his birthday party, and we have all the Play-Doh in our house and all that. If he wants to do sports someday, I'm going to be like, dude, that's awesome. I will be front row outfit cheering you on. I can be no help. Like it's not something you want to do because I'm not a sporty mom. That's just not what I do. And I'm totally okay with that because it takes more than one adult to like really raise a kid. He has wonderful people in his life who will come alongside and do that. But I own and like just embrace who you are as a parent. Like it's just as much getting to know your child as them getting to know you.
Here's the crazy thing about being a parent you're also going to be somebody's ancestor. Isn't that crazy to think about for a second? For like at 62, I'm feeling a little bit like an ancestor already, but you're somebody's like big time ancestor later. And I was talking to a rabbi friend the other day, and he said, be a good ancestor. I'm like, that was actually kind of a neat camera angle on it. So it's not just about you trying to make it through the day with a little bit less peanut butter and jelly smeared on the walls, but to say, I want to be a good ancestor. And to do that, I'm going to be fully present in my child's life. I'm going to be fully present with who I'm like married to or the people that are significant in my life. And that's the makings of a good ancestor.
Yeah, I love that, especially because I tend to be more of a control freak. So even you saying that, I'm like, yeah, the stains on things, the mess on things. It's like my constant mom journey is like shedding those layers and letting go and like unclenching my fist and just relaxing into having fun and being a child. And really what I hear y'all saying is the best way to teach our kids how to love others is to love them well and to love our spouse well and love the people around us well and in a creative, fun way. And I just love that.
Oh, I want you to set your camera tonight on slow-mo when you have that food fight. And I'm telling you, this is going to be so good at the rehearsal dinner some number of years from now to say, and so we had a food fight. And I know some people listening are cringing right now. And so if that isn't your thing, then don't do that. But do something, do something super simple, super practical, and say what we're going to do is wash our neighbor's car. What we're going to do is make them a pie, because if they don't want the pie, I do. And so just and then you move from just thinking about it, because I've met quite a few people that have great doctrine and lousy theology. And this idea of loving your neighbor, about doing beautiful things. Galatians 5:6, the only thing that matters is your faith expressed in love. And so start with your kids and the person that you're doing life with, and then expand beyond that.
Yeah, it's so good. That's what I hear, this great invitation and what you're saying. Something I've been reflecting on for the last little bit of, like, so often our faith in the West can get so cerebral, and we go through our days thinking, oh, I know a lot about God. And I think I know the things God would tell me to do or to say or to believe. But so often we miss how we embody that faith in our daily life, and the ability to say, and what our body also tells us about God and about our life around us. And I've so often through my life to not listened to my body and not used my action to be able to take my faith from my head through my heart, out through my hands and into the world around me. And it feels like there's this maybe missing piece that I think we're starting to tap into as a people, that I'm hearing more of. I think I don't experience God just in this, comfy chair over here with my Bible open. I do experience God there, but I also experience him when I go out and do something in the world and he shows up there, or I learn something about myself or about someone else. And there's theology that gets developed out there in the activity of our faith and how we show that to our kids. I don't know that I've learned anything more about God than I have when I sit down on the floor and I play trucks with my 2-year-old. And I just realized in that moment that I just love being there with him. And it's not because he does anything for me. I don't love, playing trucks on the floor with these toys, but because I get to watch him. I was told Rachel the other day, I could watch our 2-year-old do anything. He's so cute. He's like this little full human being in a little tiny body. And I could just sit and watch him do anything all day. And I realized that maybe that's how God feels about me. It's a lot less about, is this the perfect thing for me to be doing today? And instead, he's just like, watch Craig doing something. Like, this is amazing. I could watch him all day. Just so many lessons to be learned in the activity of our faith.
Yeah, bingo. I think that nails it. So tonight, when you're tempted to just get the mac and cheese out, to say, definitely go do that. But then you're like one hot dog away from a great little octopus sitting on top of that. You just split it into 4 little legs and cook it. Who even knows what is in that hot dog? Probably nasty stuff. But have the kids give them snorkels and face masks and say, we're scuba diving tonight. And they can still there's something about it, just you're 1/4 of a twist away from making it a memory instead of a meal. And I think there's just something about that. And everything that's too much pressure to say everything has to be big, but if something could be. And just find those things that are within your energy to say, is there anything I could do to make this more special? And you're probably just like one half a hot dog away from it.
It's wonderful. So good. Oh man, Bob and Lindsey, thanks so much for making space to come and talk with Rachel and me, and for creating this beautiful book, and for embodying what it looks like to have a fun family dynamic.
Seriously.
And in a world that feels so serious, and especially in this day we're living in, things feel like they're so intense and so serious all the time. And so remembering that, we can invite love to happen through this context of fun and family. And I would love maybe just Bob and Lindsey, as we close, if we just take a little bit of time, and I'd love to just maybe make space for each of you to pray over families that would be listening to this, parents that might be listening to this, inviting God to kind of move through this space to give us what we need in order to be able to take this and have the notes we need to have and actually see this lived out through our life on a daily basis. Would that be okay with you guys?
Yeah, I'm a man of few words, only because I don't think that God is dazzled by my words. He just knows our hearts already. And for you listening, he knows what you need before you ask for it. Yet he still says, make this request known to God. So if you've got something you're hurting, I think what his idea is that he wants it to be known to you. So you'll know this is actually, I'm in desperate need of a little break or a little time or a little energy. So God, my hope is that each person listening would find that spot in their heart that they could identify their need and do something about it and bring it to you.
And my prayer would be that parents know why or what it is about them that makes them an awesome parent for their kids, and just feel encouraged and know that they can get their strength from Jesus and that he will give them everything they need.
Amen.
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 Wow, what an encouraging, inspiring conversation with Bob and Lindsey Goff. I know I am personally more motivated after that to love my kids, not just in words, not just in buying them things, but in action, by being present and seizing the opportunities in front of me every day to make special moments. Like we said previously, Everybody Always for Kids is out now, and you can find it wherever you buy your books. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you'll stick around for all of season 2. We have lots of wonderful conversations planned. And as we close, can I just ask you for one thing? Can you think of one person that you would like to come along with us this season as we journey together? Who is one person you could share this podcast with? Your love for it and your experience with it is probably all that they need to motivate them to listen and to grow with us. We'd love for you to bring someone along for the ride. It takes a village after all. We know parenting a newborn is real hard, but we are here to help.